And joining us today to answer some questions, we have House Assistant Majority Leader and Lanao del Sur 1st District Representative Zia Alonto Adiong. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Congressman. Welcome back to the show.
Magandang umaga, Gretchen, and thank you for having me.
Okay, una-una ho, dinipensahan nyo itong Office of the Secretary General in their refusal to accept the two complaints filed against the President. Sabi nyo po ay these filings are not a walk-in transaction, that the receipt of an impeachment complaint is not a casual or clerical transaction, and that the Secretary General is required. What do you mean by this statement? Ibig sabihin, hindi po matatanggap ng Office of the Secretary General itong impeachment complaint filings without the Secretary General herself?
Yeah, it has been the long-standing practice ever since, no? When there were complaints filed, no, we saw that during the Estrada presidency when he was impeached by the House. We also saw that the Corona impeachment proceedings, no. I mean, these complaints are so important and so serious that it also requires filing it to a proper and authorized person who would receive these complaints. Kasi if the logic would say na anybody in the office can actually receive these complaints, who would determine, no? Who would determine who will be the in charge, no? Should there be an absence of the Secretary General? It's just been a long-standing. Kung importante ito, kung ako tatanungin mo, if I would file for impeachment complaint, why would I leave that to anyone, no? In the office? I would definitely go to the most authorized person to receive my complaints, because the filing is not only to just leave the documents behind or leave it to the office, but it also requires swearing in of those complainants, no, to verify the complaints, and that's part of the procedure. Remember, the Secretary General, once these complaints are received, it should be directly transmitted to the Speaker. So I guess in the matter of procedures and the long-standing established practice in the House of Representatives, because complaints are so important nga, Gretchen, no? Kung ikaw nga ay kung sa Grab nga at saka sa mga delivery, they are actually looking for the person addressed to to whoever is addressed itong mga binibigay nila na mga ano. So how much more to impeachment complaint, which actually is a sacred duty because determined by the Constitution. So I guess it's just it's a bad precedence. For example, it would create a bad precedence if we allow anybody in the office to just simply receive that and then ask the complainant to swear in, no? It would create a bad precedence because number one, yung tanong ko, who would determine kung utility ang nandoon sa Office of the Secretary General? Kung clerk lang yung nandoon sa Office of the Secretary General, does that mean that they're also authorized to receive that? Ang Secretary General is not around. In the case of Secretary General Garafil, she's really in Taiwan because she is due to receive some awards. No, I guess she already did receive the award. So remember, Gretchen, these complaints were filed during the break, and nobody actually anticipated what day would they be going to the House to file their complaint. So, namang may alam nun, no? So. It's not really a rejection. It's a matter of procedure, no? Adhering to a strict procedure with a long-established practice in the House of Representatives, because the impeachment is a serious matter. It's not something that we should be taken lightly, no? Kung ako nga ang magfa-file, sabi ko, kung ako nga magfa-file ng impeachment complaint, I would make sure that the one receiving my complaint will be the almost authorized in charge to receive this. So ganun lang kasimple yun, Gretchen, no? It really create a bad precedence kung if we just
You're right to point out that whatever happens here might create precedence over what happens next, as we've seen in the past, no? But we are one with you in recognizing how important these proceedings are in the filings, especially in determining the one-year ban. But I would argue that doesn't that make this a little bit shakier dahil it is contingent on the presence of one person. Paano po yun kung mag-absent na lang po si SecGen? Hanggang deadline, hanggang alanganin na ho tanggapin. That's also a possibility if you're talking about precedents.
No, as a Secretary General, one has to be present during session. These complaints were filed during the break. And there was already predetermined schedule, a trip to Taiwan. We're talking about specific details here, Gretchen. That's why it came about at the time when the Secretary General was out of the country. She's not in fact within the premises of the House. No. So if for example, if complaints are to be filed during session, definitely that would be received, because it would also amount to the Secretary General abandoning her duty, no? Should there be any complaints filed while she's around, no? While she's around, or while she's in the vicinity of the House of Representatives, she should be, no? Pag during the session, it only speaks about I think, Gretchen, it only speaks about our seriousness in in upholding, in promoting the sanctity of the impeachment process, whereby only the Secretary General. Kasi tama nga, I agree that in the Constitution it only pertains about the office of the Secretary General, no. But then again, the issue on how we go about with the details also covers the procedural matters, no. The Constitution cannot specifically cite an individual, no, because the Constitution gives leeway for the House of Representatives at least have an elbow room on how to adjust and determine which among the personnel in the office of the Secretary General is indeed authorized, and to request the complainant to swear in and verify these complaints. Anybody in the House, in the office of the Secretary General, which I think it's already beyond their pay grade to do exactly that. Only the Secretary General. Because
Pero yung una hong complaint against the President, tinanggap ho ng Secretary General.
Nandun po yung Secretary General. That's why I'm telling Gretchen and the people that the Secretary General was there. Definitely, she has to receive. She had to receive the complaints. Now, kung meron pong may mga complaint, halimbawa nandito po yung ating Secretary General, definitely it's her job, it's her mandate to receive this complaint. Ganun lang po kasi.
Dahil kayo na ho yung pumunta dun sa ating batas, no? If you take a look at the Constitution, the 1987 Constitution, there's actually no mention of the Office of the Secretary General. Yung mention po niya ay specifically nasa House Rules on Impeachment, which is Rule 2, Section 3, that says here, the verified complaint for impeachment by a member of the House or by any citizen upon a resolution of endorsement by any member thereof shall be filed with the office of the Secretary General and immediately referred to the Speaker. So kung ikukumpara ho natin yung office of the Secretary General, it's mentioned at yung Speaker, tao ho hindi po office of the Speaker. So doesn't that mean that okay na ho kung opisina po ng Secretary General yung tumanggap dito?
Yun nga, well, una-una, thank you, Creative Gretchen, for correcting me. It's really that was I intend to explain. It's in the House rules. I was explaining to you the Constitution by which of the impeachment process is being explained. No? So in the House rules, yes, I agree with you. That's why I said there's no mentioning about the specific person in the office of the Secretary General. It only pertains to the office in itself. But the long-standing procedure, Gretch, is that this is a matter of how to go about with receiving the complaint. Kasi nga, the long-standing procedure nga is that the Secretary General in person was the one in the previous impeachment complaints, was the one who actually received these complaints. Kasi una-una, pag file mo ng complaint, magsaswear in ka pa, meron ka pang pipirmahan, may pipirmahan din ng Secretary General, tapos manunumpa po yung mga complainants, and then ang Secretary General, kasi time-bound kasi, you cannot just keep the complaints indefinitely on your desk, diba? You really have to follow strictly the allotted time and days for you to transmit that to the office of the Speaker or the Speaker in the case, no? Specific po yung procedures na yan. Ang my only concern, that's why I came out not really defending but explaining why the Secretary General, or why nobody in the office of the Secretary General dared to receive these complaints, specifically because of these reasons. No, they have to swear in, they have to verify, and nobody can actually verify that except the Secretary General. No, ang sinasabi ko nga, who determines who, no? Who determines who would replace the Secretary General in his or her absence should any impeachment complaint be filed before the office, no? Kasi matatakot ka din. Kasi it would really create precedents. Hindi lang yung, kung halimbawa, kung if, I'm not just saying about the specific sitting president, I'm also talking about the future impeachment complaints. No? Paano pag halimbawa may mga impeachment complaints tapos nagkataon na wala yung Secretary General, for example, open ang office niya. Of course, naturally may mga ano siya, staff niya dyan to do the clerical to do the clerical matters, no? But not necessarily assuming the duty and the mandate of the Secretary General ay darating doon tapos ilalagay lang tapos may i-receive lang. Sabi ko nga, what if utility ang nandoon lang? What if mga clerks lang ang nandoon? So that it would create a bad precedence because it would make the impeachment process so light that anybody can just drop off.
And with that, kayo na po nagsabi, no, that this is a long-standing procedure, yet there is so much confusion. And recently, House rules have been challenged. Isn't it supposed to be like, for example, pag nawala po yung Pangulo, mayroon po siyang ina-appoint na halili sa kanya for the meantime, no? Okay, parang caretaker. Hindi ho ba dapat ganun din para din maging responsable itong Office of the Secretary General? Because if you take a look at what happened, no, the receipt of the first impeachment complaint, which many say was weak in substance. We haven't seen it yet, but that's the criticism. And the rejection of the last two complaints, some would see it as a technicality blocking accountability here. How would you respond to that? That mayroon pong paghaharang na sinusubukan gawin? And are you open to clarifying the rules on this?
It's not only technicality. It's really the mandate and the authority that we're talking here, no? Na hindi agad-agad po pwede mong agaran din na papasa kung sino man. Kailangan talaga, para sa akin, kailangan talaga. The reason why it's been a long-standing tradition because Congress actually provided for this these procedures to follow, no? We have to treat the impeachment process as something that is sacred, no? Something that is so serious na kung meron kang hindi ma-follow lang ng kunting technical, I'm sorry but everything should be considered, even the technicalities. Kasi mahirap yun, no? Pwedeng it would actually create more technical problems and legal problems. Halimbawa, may magtanong na bakit ni-receive ito na hindi naman siya authorized to receive this, no? So the point here, I think ang pinaka-contention dito, Gretch, is the trust, eh. So, okay, paano may pa-file yung ibang impeachment complaint na to make na may kasigurado tayo that this will also be heard, no? At matatransmit sa speaker. I think that's the only issue here. It's not really her absence. It's the issue on whether the Secretary General will be accepting any other impeachment complaints. I think the Secretary General also made mention about that. Na she would be receiving any complaints. No, ngayon magre-resume ang House of Representatives. She will be there available today. So I would suggest to those who are really willing to file for an additional impeachment complaint to go to the House of Representatives today and file the complaint.
Paano po ngayon ng pagko-consolidate po ng mga complaints? Kasi tatlo na po yun against the President. How would that occur? Kasi may nauna na ho na na-receive. How will the House deal with that? Bringing these three complaints together.
Well, it would pass through the same procedures and then the same process. It will be calendared, meaning to say it will be mentioned in the plenary when in receipt of an impeachment complaint. That would be referred to the proper committee, and in this case, the Committee on Justice will be the one to probably to discuss among themselves, the members, on how to go about, but they will be guided by a procedure. I think we have already adopted in the 20th Congress the procedure and the process of the impeachment complaint. So they will be guided with the rules, and they will be guided with the how to go about with either discussing it separately or to discussing all these three complaints all together in the Committee on Justice.
So, matatanggap naman ho yung dalawang
Yeah.
complaint.
Pag
Mag-aantay lang po
na-file
sila
po
sa
yan,
pagbabalik. Oo.
yes,
Would
Gretch,
you
I
know,
think
would you know when she's coming back?
she's already here. She's back actually. I don't know. I'm not sure about her itinerary. I'm not asking her personally, but
Sabay pwede na.
yeah, I'm pretty sure she's back. No, she was there in Taiwan just to receive the award. So hindi naman ata siya magtatagal doon, and she knows that we'll be resuming. The resumption of the session is today, and she's well aware of that schedule. Yeah, I'm definitely sure that she's around. No, she will be at her office today. Kaya nga, even our majority leader came out with a statement. I think he was also interviewed a couple of days ago. He also actually appeased, no, assuaged those fears na baka hindi raw matanggap. Ang sabi naman niya, nobody is actually blocking any impeachment complaint. Should there be any other groups would file, and then mag-file po sila. Ngayon po, nandyan po sila, hindi mag-file po sila. I would encourage them kasi kung ako tatanungin mo, that's how, kung ako mag-file ng impeachment complaint, I would rather file this to the most authorized person ma-receive kasi ayoko lang
Congressman,
behind at umasa sa mga hindi authorized na mga tao.
wouldn't you want to file your complaint? I mean, like, wouldn't you want your complaint to not be dependent on the presence of one single person? Kasi kung wari, for example na lang ho, so kung meron po kayong ticket sa MMDA, o kung wari si James Deakin, pumunta po kayo sa opisina ng MMDA, tapos wala po doon yung chairman, wala po doon yung parang pinakamataas, pero sana naman ma-process nyo yung aking, yung complaint ko po, Hindi ba ganun yun? Kapag meron kayong complaint, gusto nyo madinig kaagad at nakakainis ho kapag walang tumatanggap ng complainant ninyo dahil absent, dahil nasa ibang bansa. Hindi po ba ganun yun? And aren't we giving too much power to the Secretary General when the role of the SecGen is not even in the Constitution? Do you mean that the SecGen also has the authority to say whether a complaint is not verified? I mean, ganun po ba siya kalakas talaga na kailangan po habul-habulin at masustol po yung buong proseso ng impeachment?
I understand, Gretchen, no? Talagang pag gusto natin mag-complain, talagang gusto natin ma-actionan agad. But we're talking about impeachment eh. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, parati ko siya, it should not be likened to any ordinary complaints. This is the highest, I think the highest offense in the Constitution that can actually remove a sitting president, a sitting vice president, or impeachable officer. It is not something as demanding for something to be to be directly acted upon. Kaya nga sui generis ang sinabi po ng Constitution. This is one of its kind. This is not something that you see every day. No? This is not something that you do every day. So it has a specific detailed procedures for it to actually uphold the sanctity of the process. So yun lang po yung gusto kong i-emphasize, no? Gusto ko pong i-emphasize yun. Number two, it's not actually rejection, it's not actually the office, the Secretary General herself saying that do not accept. It's actually the people there in the office not wanting to accept because they know the procedure attached to the filing and to the verify. Kasi alam nila nobody dared to receive that because of the fear that it might create really technical problems in the future. It's not the Secretary General saying do not do this. In fact, yung mga tao, they were welcome there, but nobody actually verified na sinabi nila, okay, we have received this, tatatakan namin. Kasi kailangan mo manumpa eh. Kailangan manumpa ng mga nagpa-file ng complaint. Saan sila manunumpa? So, ganun lang yun eh. So, I do understand the fears and the apprehension of the staff in the office of the Secretary General because they understand, and many of them have been in Congress for quite some time, and they understand this is not something that should be taken lightly. Seryoso yung bagay ito. So, and to yours, yung sa kanina sinabi mo, ganun ba ka powerful ang ng Secretary General. No, ganun po dapat kaseryoso ang mag-i-uphold niya ang kanyang trabaho. It's not something about it doesn't rely on her own wishes whether to accept or not to accept, to reject. It's actually her it's actually her not a choice but her mandate to receive the complaint personally, because that's been a long-standing is in the House of Representatives.
Pero pwede po niyang sabihin na hindi verified to. What does verified mean? Y- just to attach the complaint to the identities involved?
You have to assess the complaint, and then mag-swear in ka that ikaw talaga yung nag-file noon, ikaw talaga yung nagko-complain, etc.
But isn't that relatively simple and easy to do? Even without the presence of the SecGen. And are you open to actually clarifying the rules on this? Para hindi po nakakalito at hindi po siya posibleng ma-weaponize in the future.
I agree with you. I think the good thing about this incident is we can actually open up the discussion. No, maybe pag-usapan kasi nobody foresee na this kind of things might happen in the future, di ba? I think the basis for this procedure and practice to be still to be still in effect, it's because of yung belief ng regularity, no, yung the belief that yung sinasabing presumption of regularity, that when it happens, the office is open to receive. But in this case, may mga nuance din kasi at may mga incidents that is not really foreseen. For example, the Secretary General, while on break, was there in Taiwan to receive an award. So it happened on a specific day where the Secretary General was out in countries, and nobody actually can predict that. Nobody actually foreseen that there. So I think it opened up the discussion on if there's for example, if there are events that may happen, or any incident that might happen, or any similar
or in the absence of
yes, similar na mga pangyayari na pwede mangyari in the future, what would happen? Should there be an authorized, for example, an OIC, no, not really an OIC, but an authorized person in the office to receive. So receive, yes, I'm open to that. No, I'm open to kung should there be any discussion about that. Yeah. Kasi
Congressman,
we really have to allay and assuage the fear of the public. No, baka naman tayong tanggapin. But then again, we are actually assuring them, and even the majority leader assured the public that there's nothing. There's no one in the House of Representatives to block any impeachment complaint. Andiyan na po ang Secretary General, Monday po ngayon, the resumption po ang Congress. Pwede naman ho sila bumalik doon at i-file po nila itong impeachment complaint nila.
Okay, that's today. Congress resumes today. So, could you run us through the timetables? Paano po yun? Day 1 na ho ba of the 10-session day deadline to calendar the complaint in the order of business? Does it start today?
It starts when I think, kung na-receive po yan, doon po nagtitik ang clock, no? Na-receive po ng Secretary General, na-transmit po sa House, the Speaker, and then it will be calendared. So it will start the 10-day session, 10 session days prior to the transmittal or the referral of this impeachment complaint to the Court of Justice.
So pagdating po sa opisina ng Speaker, doon po siya mag-activate?
Pag nabasa na po sa plenary, that's what I know. I have to review the House rules.
Okay.
But I think it should be mentioned in the open session.
But for now, none of the 3 complaints have been deemed initiated. Is that correct?
Because the filing really is different from initiation. But then again, there's a ruling of the Supreme Court that came about during the VP impeachment proceeding. So we really have to go back there, because that's part of the subject matter ng MR ng House of Representatives, yung initiation. But then anyway, we will be receiving na-receive na nga yung first, na I think may magpa-file pa. I'm not preempting anything that might happen today. I'm not. But I'm just assuming that since this talk about the second complaints and the third complaint dominated the discussion, public discussion. So I presume that there's going to be another. There's going to be a filing.
Yes. Oo. Pero yung in the absence of a decision, Supreme Court decision on the MR, what rules will the House follow in terms of when a complaint is deemed initiated?
Well, it's very clear. The Supreme Court ruling, we have to follow that in the absence of the Supreme Court responding to it, either to grant or MR or to deny of MR. But we will follow the Supreme Court. Yung sa Supreme Court naman is to exercise yung sinasabi po nilang due process, right? So we have to notify the one being charged of these complaints, and then I think the Committee on Justice,
Pag natanggap na ho ng Committee on Justice.
I think the chairperson of the Committee on Justice is Congresswoman Bistro. Also there was a statement of her by her na she would be, kasi following in compliance with the Supreme Court ruling, she will notify itong mga officers being charged of impeachable offenses to appear in the committee hearings.
Okay, so the last Supreme Court ruling stands in this case. Okay, abangan po natin ang mga kaganapan ngayong araw na ito. You already mentioned what might go down.
Parating Letchen para maabangan mo yung pangyayari.
Congressman. Maraming salamat always for your time today here on Morning Matters. We have House Assistant Majority Leader and Lanao del Sur Representative Zia Alonto Adiong.